So people think that the Christian worldview is bad.
Okay.
Out there. People
there
without Christian worldview.
Correct.
And they think that Christian worldview sucks. And
Yes.
they want you to stop having your Christian worldview in public.
Right.
And they want you to stop having it at schools.
Right.
And they want your worldview out of politics and all that stuff. So what are they mad at?
Okay.
Why is your worldview so incompatible with their worldview, and why did they think that your worldview is bad?
Okay. Man, that's
what I was asking.
I got
sort
you.
of, because I think that some people's Christian worldview is stupid.
Okay.
And it's not what I would do. And
Okay.
I wouldn't do things that way based on the Bible, and they would think the same thing about me. And so we fight amongst ourselves, but then there's people who hate all of it.
Sure. So yeah, and I think you get to the point, right, where Christians might agree. They might agree with that's what I'm saying, the big fundamental answers to those questions, right?
Okay.
But you're going to disagree on maybe some of the details of it or how it plays itself out. But you're absolutely right. There are individuals in groups who absolutely hate the worldview of Christianity.
Right.
Okay. But I would also say that, it's interesting because there's never just it's not like, okay, I'm going to remove a Christian worldview from public schools and we're just going to have this neutral worldview. That's never going to exist.
Right.
Right? Like, worldviews are going to be there. And whether it's established by the government, whether it's established by local schools and their principals, whether it's established by the teachers in that local classroom, right? Like, worldviews are at play. And worldviews are going to be expounded upon. And so, and as a Christian, I might go, well, hey, I don't want my child, exposed to that worldview.
Right.
And so I very much understand that there's a clash of worldviews. And that could be because you've got a progressive Christian worldview clashing against a more traditional Christian worldview. Right. It could be because you've got an atheistic worldview clashing with a Christian worldview. Right. And so it could come from you could have, the big worldview of today of critical theory. That worldview is absolutely clashing with Christianity today. And so I understand where groups and individuals want Christianity, like, I don't like that. Well, but there's also issues I have with their worldview, right? And I don't know if that's going to stop magically. We're just going to disagree on our worldviews.
On how we view everything.
Yeah, and I don't think there's, the same way they want their worldview to be known publicly and adhered to publicly. There's nothing wrong with a Christian saying, well, here's our worldview publicly. Okay?
Okay.
And, again, we go back to even the fabric of our country. There's a lot of Christian worldview established in the laws and the legal system of our country is very influenced through a Christian worldview. And so I just, there's never been, again, you can't have a neutral worldview, and it's not okay to say, well, you know what? Religious worldviews just need to stay within their churches or in their mosque or in their synagogues. You don't have a place, in the public sphere. Only us non-religious individuals have a voice in the public sphere to voice our worldview.
It is called a worldview.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, the way we see the world.
Yeah.
And but Christians and I'm saying the same thing for other religions too. They should be able to voice their worldview in public.
Okay, so do you think that the whole of Christian worldview is better than the whole of all of the non-Christian worldviews?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Are you sure?
100%.
Okay.
Because you see the damage that's okay. For example, if we try to remove,
even with counting in all the Christian worldviews that you don't like.
Yep.
Even if you add all that into yours.
So you're talking about like even like the progressive Christian worldview, that kind of stuff.
That's better than
no worldview, or
than secular world, whatever they call it.
Secular or critical theory or postmodern worldview. And that's kind of a thing, though, I think, right? Like, there's not just like a secular worldview, right? There's a modern worldview. There's a postmodern worldview. There's a critical theory worldview. Like, the world, our society continues to evolve as well.
So you think progressive Christian worldview is better than every other non-Christian worldview?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, what are we doing? What are we talking about? What are we doing?
I'm saying that.
So is this like a Venn diagram?
No, I'm saying
like on the left is like all the ones that suck, and then here's the ones that.
I think a traditional for me, right? This is me speaking.
Okay.
A traditional biblical worldview to me is the best worldview. Okay.
So whichever group that's in,
right?
That's the best one. Is that how this works?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but when you talk about traditional Christian worldview, like we all agree, like for the most part, we're all agreeing on the fundamental answers to these questions. And so I believe this is the thing. I believe that a Christian worldview actually provides the most coherent worldview. I believe other worldviews fall unbelievably short in their worldview.
Traditional.
Okay, let me give you an example. Okay? If you like the most recent worldview that we've kind of has been there for the longest, and we're starting to kind of move from, but a postmodern worldview. Okay. Postmodern worldview, and would say
I've heard of this, but no one really defines it well.
Yeah. So a postmodern worldview believes that we are living in a pluralistic society. Right.
Okay.
So when you ask the question of origin, how did we get here? The answer to that question would be, well, what does your God say?
Oh.
What is your right? And that's okay, cool. That works for that.
And we say that's cool for you.
Yeah, we say that's cool for you.
And
good.
We celebrate that for you.
What is your meaning and your purpose? Right. Well, most within a postmodern worldview are going to say my happiness, my self-fulfillment.
So this worldview is looking at all other worldviews as equal and fine.
They're saying,
except for yours.
Right. This is the issue with the pluralistic or postmodern worldview. They do not like exclusive religions, right, that have exclusive truth claims. So Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they have exclusive truth claims. Okay. But by saying we don't like exclusive truth claims, they're making an exclusive truth claim. Okay. So it gets cyclical. But so for example, though, in postmodernism, when you ask the question of morality, right, they'll say, well, it's subjective. It's up to you. Okay. You decide morality. So then, like, my conclusion is, okay, so then I can just steal from you. I can cause you bodily harm.
Oh.
Because morality is...
So the conclusion of these worldviews is bad.
That's what I'm getting to. Like, in Christianity, there's a coherency to the worldview. And when it works itself out, it's coherent and there's not contradictions found within it. And there's a consistency. Within other worldviews, it falls apart. Okay. And so when I get to an issue like morality, in postmodernism, they go, I don't know. And it's very much like, well, you do what feels good to you. Okay. And I'll do what feels good to me. Well, what happens when...
And this is what these people actually believe.
100%.
And what happens, how they live their lives.
What happens when what feels good to you clashes with what feels good to me, right?
Then Whose truth feel wins? Good to me on you harder.
Right. Whose truth wins? Or like, for example, a modern worldview, which is more grounded in science. Okay. So like they can't even answer, that worldview can't even answer.
We live in post-science?
Yeah. Postmodernism. It's like a post-rational, post-scientific.
Which was already post-religion.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And like what we found was.
So we're just nothing. It's just a nothing worldview.
And I'll get to where we are now. But like a modern worldview, for example, when you get to morality, science can't answer the question of morality. No. They can't.
We evolved it. Duh.
Right. Yeah. And so, but there's no way it can't answer a question like morality. It just can't.
Yeah.
And so, so therefore, all I'm saying is there's in like a modern worldview or a postmodern worldview, their worldviews are unable to actually sufficiently answer all of these questions, and they're unable to sufficiently answer them in a way that doesn't cause contradictions within their own worldview.
Okay.
And so
yours is the best.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. But I will say this: a liberal, progressive, especially a progressive Christian worldview, it actually scares me as much as like an atheistic modern worldview. Okay. An atheistic modern worldview, that's what we have. That's what we have with Soviet Union, right? That's what we have with communism.
We got rid of that.
Well, we did because we said that worldview bad, right? Like that's where communism derives out of. Okay. Is that kind of a modern worldview? And so, but for us as when I'm looking at it, progressive.
So this worldview is so outcome not be bad. Like I see the world this way so that things go well for me.
Right. And that's why I'm saying a traditional Christian worldview actually creates the best picture of the world. It creates the best picture for humanity. It creates the best picture of, for all of us. And
so when I ask you, is the Christian worldview good?
Yes.
You have to throw adjectives on the front of that to say yes.
I have to throw a traditional Christian worldview.
Okay.
Or biblical or orthodox. Those all are synonymous words, right?
Okay.
So yes, I would want to, because I do think a progressive Christian worldview falls painfully short.
Okay.
Because it's not rooted specifically in Scripture.
So why don't you and the orthodoxes and the biblicals all say to the progressives, no, you don't have a Christian worldview, so that the title of Christian worldview can be less tainted according to you.
Yeah, I get you. But they're going to hold to the fact that they're Christians as well, right?
Well, screw them.
Yeah.
My worldview says, get out of here. I mean, right?
Yeah. Well,
stand up for yourself, Joseph.
I mean,
jeez. Pastor, doctor.
I can't tell people just what the words they're going to use or, those kind of things. They use words. So, but yeah, so I think that's, and even like the most common worldview today, or the the prevalent worldview that's coming to the forefront today is, within critical theory. And the critical theory doesn't even answer the first question of origin, because it doesn't even care to answer the question.
To ask the question?
Yeah, to ask or to care what the answer is, because the concern is just the temporal. The concern is who has the power and who doesn't. Who are the oppressed?
Well, your questions are stupid anyway, according to my worldview.
Maybe so, But
who asks questions?
Yeah, critical. Yeah,
stupid.
It's not ask questions anymore. And so, but like critical theory worldview is going to, they're looking through the world through the lens of power structures. Who are the oppressors? Who are the oppressed? And they're going to answer all of those questions based off of that.
Right.
And so and of course I just have majorly large issues with that approach of looking through everything through power dynamic structures of oppressor and oppressed. But that is really what is becoming the most common worldview taught in our universities, that's in our media, and ultimately I think it's finding itself in larger society, especially with social media. So.
Tradish Christian worldview.
That's what we're going with. That's what we want.